Senator Manchin, always great to see you. Dead Center is the title of the book. We'll get to that in a second. But there's a lot going on in Washington, as you've seen. How do you evaluate Trump 2.0?
You know, there's some good things that have been done, and my state is very supportive. As you know, I'm in a state that's gone completely red. And the only thing I've told my Democrat friends, I said, listen, the things that you like that are done, okay, you can just say I made a mistake on the border, and I want to work with the president. The border has to be secured. You can say also in high crime areas that we want a crime-free area. I can tell your constituents do. And with that, say, when it's over, make sure I'm able to sustain what you showed me I need to do and help me. There's ways to handle this in a respectful way. And the hard thing about people today is that if you're on one side or the other, you're the enemy.
Trump makes declarations like that,
It's
though.
wrong.
He said at Charlie Kirk's memorial,
I know. I heard
Charlie forgives and wants the better of his opponents. I don't. I hate my opponent.
That's not, let me just say, let me speak for myself. On a situation like that, one time when I first ran for election, 1982, I had a person who I thought was supporting me, and I found out double-crossed me. And I was upset. And that's okay.
Right. Human nature.
But my dad got it real quick. He said, come and have breakfast with me. After I won, he says, you're mad at so-and-so, aren't you? I said, yeah, Dad. I said, you know, we thought all along he's working with us. We found he's working both sides. He said, okay, so what do you want to do? You don't want to serve him? You don't want to, you know, give him any type of service whatsoever? I'll tell you what you do, Joe. If you're going to tell so-and-so, the heck with you, I'm not going to represent you, go to the courthouse, find out how much taxes he paid, write a check for his taxes, and just then go confront him and say, listen, I elect not to represent you because you didn't vote for me, or you double-crossed, or you were mad, whatever. And I never forgot that. And I said, Dad, I can't do that. He said, then keep your mouth shut and you serve everybody. You take the oath. It's not just for the people that vote for you. People vote against you.
But you talk in the book about polarization in Washington. Yeah. The President of the United States does feed some of that, doesn't he?
Oh, no, I've been begging for this. And I said, you know, he is my president. People have spoken. I respect the representative form of government we have, and whoever the people speak, whether I vote for him or not, whether it's the same party or we're even friends or not. I want them to succeed. And being in the U.S. Senate for 15 years, I was in a position to try to help. And I was always looking to be helpful. But when I couldn't, I had to do it, you know, and make sure they understood. I can't explain this back home, so I'm so sorry. I can't. If you can make some changes here, and that's how you start negotiating. But President Trump comes in pretty hot, pretty strong. You know where he's at. But you still have to say, Mr. President, I'm so sorry. I wish I could help. I would love to help. But right now, I'm asking President Trump, our president, for that better angel inside of him. I think it's in all of us that tells you, well, this is not right. We need him to comfort us. We need him to say, this is the United States, and bring people together. Don't keep pushing you apart, and don't think you're going to use the office for your own reprimands for people that basically haven't been on your side.
Do me a favor, diagram the shutdown scenario that you see playing out the next couple of weeks. The president said yesterday that he would meet with Charles Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and he canceled it this morning. Republicans seem to be digging in on this. Democrats seem to be digging in on the issue of health care, Obamacare subsidies, and Medicaid change in the tax bill. Diagram how that's going to end.
I'm just diagram real. I can tell you very, very plain. I would never vote for a shutdown. Why penalize the good citizens of our country or my constituents? Why punish them because we can't do our job? That's it in a nutshell. And you meet with everybody up until you give it everything you have to find a compromise and a pathway forward. Now, I understand.
But you already see the politics playing out, who's going to win the shutdown before it even happens.
Nobody wins. They're going to figure out who's the blame game. Who can blame?
Who's going to get blamed this time?
That's exactly. So
who do you think is going to get blamed?
Well, here, the president has, you know, he's been the great deal maker, okay? He's always talked about deal makers. And anything I would say, if you don't believe the Democrats are sincere, prove it by meeting with them. Make them prove it that they just weren't sincere. And the people will accept it. And the president talks very plain and direct to people. And I think whoever advised him not to do that was not the best advice he probably could have gotten, because maybe he could have found a way forward. And a lot of his constituents don't want these Medicaid cuts.
Are they showing up in West Virginia? Do you fear that they will? From the big, beautiful bill, so-called?
Well, here's the thing about any bill. You know, what's ironic is that both bills, marquee bills, and both, when the Democrats were in charge and the Republican, are all BBBs.
Yeah.
Build Back Better and Big Beautiful Bill. So that was something. But if you have a piece of legislation and you know this is going to change America and it's going to help people's lives, why do you not implement it until 2 years from now? You know, because you're afraid of the pushback. It should have been sellable. Every Republican should have been out, and Democrats that could have supported it. I look at a bill that's going to help, and I says, I'll vote with my Republican friends on that. Or I'll basically go back and try to explain to my Democrats, we ought to be working with this to make it work. And that's what I'm not seeing happen. So if that's the case, then the Democrats are going to say, this is what's going to happen to you in 2027, okay? And probably says, no, it's not, no, it's not. Well, if it's not, then why don't we do it now if we needed it? You see? And the thing about in rural America, rural West Virginia, the Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, that's paying for a lot of the rural hospitals that are giving services they couldn't get before. Now, the thing I would look at, and very carefully, I says, have you all dissected and saw what we were doing before COVID shut down and how much we expanded during COVID? And if you can rationalize and say, guys, we didn't need to expand that much. We were trying to survive, didn't know what we were facing. Now can we start ratcheting back? You know, Major, better than anybody. When you expand, it's hard to retract.
Yep.
But you better have good reasons for doing it. And any dollar you save ought to go towards really the debt of the nation at approaching 37 trillion. That's going to be the downfall of America if we don't get our financial house in order. That's what I'm scared of, and nobody's talking about it.
In your book, you're very critical of the Democratic Party and its woke tendencies. President Trump is very hostile to that.
Yeah.
In what ways did your party stray? And in what ways do you think perhaps there is an overreaction with the Trump administration?
Yeah, you don't have to be hostile. I mean, I just disagreed. And I've said, I was asked one time, what happened to the West Virginia Democrats? And that's all I ever knew growing up. And you said, that's the caucus I basically worked with for almost 15 years. I never caucused with the Republicans, so I don't know the inner workings, so I can only speak what I saw. I was very critical about, I never saw anybody talking seriously about the debt of the nation. I think fiscal responsibility. And I recall this, my grandfather used to say, Joe, you make sure that you're financially strong enough to help people when they need help. Because if you get upside down in your finances, your debt, the debt of personal debt that you carry that's unmanaged will lead you to make cowardly decisions. I'll never forget that. I said, Pop, he said, you will make cowardly. Remember the saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul? It's cowardly decisions. You're just putting things off. Get your house in order. And how many times have you known someone says, oh, Major, I wish I could help you. I just don't have the finances to do it. Well, that's a pretty cop-out. Okay, make yourself strong. So we're not, and I always said that. They didn't do it. The whole thing about what the Democrats have done, I was asked about what's different. And I said, I can tell you about West Virginia. They feel like the returning Vietnam veteran. They did everything humanly possible to help our country. They mined the coal, the hard, difficult jobs. They worked in the factories. They made the steel that built the guns and ships that defended our country. We've done it all. Now we're not good enough, clean enough, green enough, or smart enough. They threw us aside.
Disrespected.
Yeah, and then as far as the wokeness, the Democrats that I knew growing up, they always knew the Democratic Party would help you to make sure you had a safe job to go to, try to keep it safe as possible, good benefits, and treated fairly.
A decent wage.
Right. They never thought you would ever jump in and say, if you don't believe this, this, and this, whatever agenda, whatever you want to. And I would say this, the Constitution says pursuit of happiness, Major. I took the oath of the Constitution to defend and protect. I'm going to do everything I can, okay, to make sure you are able to pursue your happiness. No matter what your gender, what you love, what color, race, none of that. Whatever you want, I'm going to say, you're in America, you have a right. Just don't make me believe I'm out of sorts if I don't believe the same thing, okay? I'm doing my job, okay? Don't make me take it home. Don't make me think that, hey, your school and this and that. And, you know, it's just a hard thing to do in West Virginia to say that, you know, boys should be playing in girls' sports, even though it's minute. But to them, it's like the camel's nose under the tent. So that's what you're dealing with. So they say, wait a minute, they're going to tell me I got to accept that? They're going to tell me I got to accept this? No, I don't.
So the takeaway for you is Democrats over the last 10 to 15 years have lost traction in the culture space in America.
Well, let's put it this way. Right now you have Bernie and AOC doing their tours, right? a lot of enthusiasm.
Oligarchs tours. Yeah.
Oligarch tours. Since the November of election of 2024, the Democratic Party has lost 160,000 registered voters that say I'm a Democrat. If that's the way the country is going to accept it, the party making these changes, then you would have thought they'd had an increase, right? Because, boy, we got to change. Republicans had an increase of 200,000. Democrats went down 160. But guess what? The winner of all this is the party I belong to, which is no party affiliation. That's about 50%. So we have no voice in Washington because there's no middle to protect you.
Because I like to prove, I read the entire book.
I can tell. You got to.
Page 198. You speak in the book with some clarity and some regret about the hardball tactics of the Biden White House and the Democratic leadership with a very narrow majority in the Senate. But then you also write down this warning to Senate Republicans. My warning to them is this: please do not fall into the same trap that consumed Democrats. Do not govern entirely through reconciliation. Do not stretch parliamentary rules beyond recognition. Do not override the parliamentarian when a ruling doesn't go your way. Do not exploit every loophole just to bypass real debate. How are they doing?
I called them, my friends. I said, what the hell are you doing?
Republicans.
Yeah, my friends. These are my friends. I know them well because I've worked with all of them. I think they know better. I'm the one they used to come to, Joe, don't get rid of the filibuster, please. I had to basically guarantee Mitch McConnell. I says, Mitch, go ahead and work with Chuck. You don't have to have anything in writing because you have my word that I'll never get rid of the filibuster. And it only takes one vote right now with a 50-50 Senate to protect the filibuster. You've got mine. On my children's life, on my family, everything that's precious to me. I'm never going to get rid of it. I think it's the holy grail that keeps the country and democracy as we know it, at least trying to make it work, because you have to talk and work in the Senate. If not, we become a glorified House. Simple majority, boom, go. And reconciliation means you've discounted the other side. The whole thing about the Senate was designed that the minority could never be shut out. Never. They always had input. And that was the whole purpose of this. And
so how are Republicans doing on that warning you issued?
They're picking around. They're nitpicking around the edges, okay? And this whole thing.
They're falling into the trap you warned them about.
I've warned them, and I called them and said, this is what goes around comes around here. We've all been here long enough to see it. I beg Harry Reid not to do the filibuster on judges especially. Make a deal with Mitch McConnell on just will and pleasure, people that come and go with the president's administration. Allow the president to put their staff together. Don't hold their people up and then blame them for not running the government the way it should be run. How in the hell are they going to do their job if you're holding half their people playing the game? Makes no sense to me at all. No sense at all. And they said, well, that's all we've got. No, it doesn't. What you've got is you can sit down reasonably, and when they don't want to meet with you or they won't work with you, then go to the public and make your case. And if it makes sense, I'll guarantee you, things will change. You can't defend where you're so far to the left because you're afraid of upsetting the base. The base is going nowhere. The base is strong and loud and going nowhere, okay? What happened to the base, it took over where the moderates were and the centrist Democrats, and what's happening to the base on the Republican side, it's basically dissembled the grand old party.
Right off the jump in the book, page 1, you talk about our broken political system. I read that all the time, and I'm actually tired of reading that.
Yeah.
Because here's my question.
I'm sorry.
Is it a broken system or is it full of broken players?
Well, the system has been weaponized to the point you have to pick a side, and you're dealing with a duopoly, two businesses. You have a corporation called the Democratic Party and a corporation called the Republican Party. And their mode of operandum and basically their business plan is fear and hatred. That's not the system that...
You write division sells.
Division, remember when we were young enough and it says, if it bleeds, it reads?
Leads, yeah.
No different. No different, just a little bit more now. Let me give you a perfect example of what we're dealing with. The president last week said, the person, the accused assassin, was raised in a good family, very smart, intelligent, and got radicalized around 15, 16 years of age on the internet. Mr. President, I'm asking you this, Mr. President, if that's, and I agree with you 1,000%, that's where it's happening, why aren't we not doing anything to rein in all this unfiltered, these platforms that put anything and everything?
Free speech.
No, just put the free speech guardrails on. You can't say anything you want.
Describe them to me.
Well, basically, you can't slander somebody. You can't haul a
No,
fire.
I can't. But on a platform that's not regulated by libel laws, I can.
Well, yeah, but the thing of it is we have networks, CBS here. You got to be careful.
But we're governed by different rules.
Different rules. Why? Why are the cable news not the same? Why are all these social
Well, the internet
platforms
not the same. Internet platforms.
That's what I'm saying. Internet platforms, why are they not the same? Why is Section 230 still protected with blanket immunity? So, Mr. President, you want to make some changes? I know Democrats and Republicans know you've got to put guardrails. They are all scared to death what's going to happen with AI. Major, when AI comes, you won't know if that's you, if that's your daughter, if that's who's talking, if that's the voice of somebody, you won't know anything.
You write, page 159, back to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in division. If you toe the party line, if you throw red meat to your base, if you feed into the outrage cycle, the money flows.
Oh, does it ever?
But if you stand up and say, I'm here to work with the other side, suddenly the spigots turn off.
Well, what happens if people have been indoctrinated or basically driven to one side or the other, and I look like I'm working with both my friends and what their so-called enemies, those are not my enemies. The Republicans are not my enemies, and Democrats are not your enemies, what side of the fence you're on. I know where the enemies are, and they're not here. But they take it as if, oh, you've gone over to the dark side, so I'm not going to help you. And I said, this
and
is
you're
not...
talking about big institutional donors and small dollar donors who are in the
donors will cut off first.
Base.
Small dollar donors will go away first.
They're the canary in the coal mine.
There you go.
West Virginia is.
The big corporate, the big money says, wait a minute, it'll come around. We'll play both sides here. We'll be okay.
They usually do.
You know how it works, okay? I know what we're dealing with here. Only thing I am saying, if you wanted to change politics in America, Citizens United done nothing but just exasperated what we have. And there's no guardrails on it at all. They could have sat down way back in 2010 and said, listen, the unions and the PACs they work out of, you're looking at them having an advantage over individuals who have money or corporations that can't do what they can do. Sit down, make the deal. This is a level playing field for all of us. You can have a certain amount of PACs there, but you just can't have unbridled money coming in, 501c4, dark money. They could have done all that. You think it'll ever go back? Do you think now we can put that genie back in the bottle when both sides are prospering? The last election, 2024, Democrats, I think, had about $3 or $4 billion more spent on national elections than the Republicans. So it's not the money, it's not the poor Democrats. That's not the case. It had to be the message. It had to be the message. And I think, you think they can't say we made a mistake on the border? We made a big mistake. People want secured borders. We want to work with the president. And Mr. President, will you work with us on putting a good immigration policy, such as the one we passed in 2013 that had 68 senators, Democrats and Republicans? And we want a crime-free, I always want to live in a crime-free area.
When does Joe Manchin run for president?
Well, I want to help whoever I can.
No. When is Joe Manchin running for president? You are the biggest flirt in American politics when it comes to presidential campaigns. So when are you going to run?
Let me check. I would have loved to have been, I was begging the Democratic Party to have a 30-day primary. When Joe Biden decided,
when the president decided
please
not to
have a
seek
30-day,
re-election.
and I'd have loved to have been in that discussion and let the cream rise, because they had to dismember a lot of the perception and a lot of the things that happened in the 4 years. Okay, now how would you do it different as a Democrat? As an independent Democrat, I could have showed them how to put the guardrails back on, and how we basically look at each other and how we work with each other. I'd love to have that conversation.
Was that a big mistake not to open that process?
Big mistake. Big mistake. It would have helped Kamala Harris too. Okay?
You think you could have emerged?
I don't know. I think common sense. I think common sense, but you know what? It would have changed. It could have changed the dialogue. You know, what don't we like? I don't like the open borders. Mistake was made. You had compassion. People were disrupted around the world. And
meaning argue it out, let the delegates decide, and accept it at the convention. But at least have a process.
That's it. 30 days, that's all. So you think 107 versus 77, 87, 67?
It doesn't make a material difference. Yeah. But you think it would have made a material difference had there been that 30 days in between?
I can tell you, people like myself who could have gotten said, listen, does this make sense to you? Don't we made some mistakes? Let's talk of the good things we did. $35 on our for insulin. We had another $2,000 cap on seniors. We did some good things.
Prescription drugs, yeah.
And now we have an energy policy that works. We're producing more energy today than we ever did before, which they wouldn't even talk about that because they was going, everything's about climate. No, we're producing energy that we need today because of the IRA. And we've invested in energy we like to have for tomorrow, which is less carbon. You can't eliminate your way to a cleaner environment, but you can innovate it through technology. That was what I was trying to do, and I think we did. We accomplished it, but everybody takes a different turn on it if they didn't vote for it.
Word association for a while. Joe Biden.
Good man. I'm praying for his health and well-being.
Yeah, but as president.
I never.
You write in the book he was not as president the senator and person you knew. So what happened?
Well, the only thing about Joe, I've known him for a long time. He's always been very gracious and very good to work with, and he always wanted to make a deal. And boom, he would just go. Well, what I saw.
You recount some pretty angry encounters with him.
Well, we had some, but that's all. If friends can't have frank discussions, sometimes get a little bit hot, then that's not a very good friend. So we would do that. We had, I always knew when President Biden, he says, "Hey Joe, how you doing? It's gonna be a pretty rough day. Hey Joe, what's going on? Pretty good day." Okay, so I could tell. We always had good conversations. Mm-hmm. I just thought he lost the will to fight. Because you know why I thought that?
Fight whom?
Hold on, let me explain to you. The will to fight this. We have so many bright, smart, young people in government working in all our agencies, whether you're a senator, and I can only imagine as president, all these agencies and all these people in the White House and this and that. And if I went and told him, I said, "Mr. President, you have the most liberal staff I've ever seen." He looked at me and said, "Hey, Joe, they tell me I have the most diverse staff." I said, "We're not talking about diversity. We're talking about way left crazy." Okay? And I'm thinking, how'd that happen? Okay, well, he went to Iowa, wasn't great. Went to New Hampshire, wasn't great. Went to South Carolina, was saved. Okay? What type of deal do you have to make in order to get everybody set aside? Okay, here we go. And I think there was a deal made there that where it was going to go left, and by God, it went left, and it got out of control, and it was just too much of a fight.
Was he diminished near the end, in your opinion? Mental faculties, physical?
I never had that. I mean, I cannot say that.
Okay.
I met him up in, we were talking an awful lot. And every time I met with him was always, I just felt that when it went to his chief of staff and they tried to get down into it never got done. They were going a complete different direction. And I knew when he and I talked, we had pretty much the same central view of things. And then the things we didn't have, we got into it a little bit, but we could work it out. Mm-hmm. I remember way back when it was a shutdown, 2013, he was vice president, and Harry Reid got so mad because there was going to be a shutdown. The government shut down, you recall that? Ted Cruz and all them. Obama sends, President Obama sent Vice President Biden. Biden goes right in, Mitch McConnell, cuts a deal, and boom, 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 we're back in business. Right. I'll never forget Harry Reid coming in the next caucus. Don't you ever send that darn Joe Biden, vice president, up here again to make a deal. Right. He'll make deals. I knew that was a Joe Biden. I knew. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't going to happen with this administration, his chief of staff, and all the people they put together that went way to the left.
Kamala Harris, word association.
I sat with her 1 year in Intel committee, which is a pretty intense committee. We got along great. We sat right beside each other. She was fine. We just had different views on things. That's all. Mm-hmm. You don't have to denigrate people and talk to them. I just said, listen, we disagree.
Is she a leader in the party for the future?
I don't think.
You do not think?
Mm-mm.
Why?
No. Well, she's going to have to find her, She can't move that left where she came from back to the center and say, I'm in the center, move with me. I don't think they're coming. Okay? They're doing pretty good over here. And that's where she probably felt more comfortable. Took a long time to say that I'm for fracking. We have to have energy. Mm-hmm. Took a long to recognize that we had an energy policy that was working. We put out more energy. 38 trillion cubic feet of gas, 4.7 billion barrels of oil, more than anyone's ever done in the world. Mm-hmm. They couldn't even take credit for that. They kept saying it's an environmental bill, the IRA. The IRA, the biggest mistake I made, Major, was not naming that bill the Energy Security Act. That's what it did. It gave us secured energy after the Ukraine war and what Putin weaponized energy. Mm-hmm. And I just totally was messing. I said, listen, do you all not see what I'm seeing? Our allies, our trusted allies and friends are now going to be shut down because they don't have the energy to heat their homes or run their factories or take care of their jobs and provide for their families. And if we don't step up to the plate, someone else will.
Mm-hmm. Right. In that regard, I'll get to more word association in a second. The President Trump, is very hostile to all renewables. He is cutting back federal support for batteries, solar, wind, every other form of renewable, while China is investing and doubling and tripling its investment across the board in all of those. I've always heard you describe an all of the above.
I'm totally all of the above.
So you're not hostile, or you don't share the president's hostility to renewables?
No, I would like to, if I get a chance, I talk. I know Doug Burgum's a good person. I know Doug, and I know Chris Wright. There's a good people.
Energy Secretary, Interior Secretary.
Yes, and I think if they're able to have any input, and I'm sure they are, that they will explain. We don't have the energy. The grid does not have the capacity to produce the energy that we need to deliver for what we're wanting for the future, especially AI. But so much more as we develop and bring energy back, bring manufacturing back.
So America needs all of those
We
forms.
need everything we can possibly do. The only thing you have to recognize, you need dispatchable to have a great society, a great economy, and attraction for other manufacturing. You have to have 24/7 energy. You don't get it with solar. You don't get it with wind. And a lot of the other things haven't been what we call matured or perfected. SMRs, small modular reactors, are going to come on very strong.
Right?
I think so. And you have the micro, you'll have that.
In other words, we should be investing in all of these.
Well, that's what we did with the IRA.
But you know the president's rolling that back in the green space.
A lot of it he is. And well, let me tell you what the Biden administration did, which really put me in a tizzy, and I went after him hard. I said, we wrote a piece of legislation that was well balanced. We're going to produce the energy we need for today to run this country and defend our country and grow and help our allies, and we're going to invest in the new technology for the future, less carbon. We can do both. We have the ability to do both. And then the Biden administration, once they saw the bill that we wrote and they passed and said, I'm for it, I'm with you 1,000%. Then they started administering, because when you pass a bill, it has to go to the White House. The White House sends it to EPA or to Treasury or somewhere else, and they start deciphering a complete different bill. And I told them, you all are trying to basically implement a bill you never passed. This is not your bill. This is a balanced bill. And they start cutting the amount of emissions or amount of critical minerals we should be producing or working with our friendly traders, if you will, free trade agreement countries. And I said, you're going to be still beholden to China. China's holding you by the neck. And what's going to happen is we're not developing what we should be in America because you're cutting the targets you're supposed to be hitting. I'll give you a perfect example. The first year is supposed to be 40% that we could self-sustain ourselves, 40%. They cut it to 20. They cut everything in half. And I told them, I said, I'm going to sue you. Well, I couldn't sue because I'm a senator. Right. I wasn't damaged. But I told every corporation that had been investing to come back to our country, and based on how the bill was passed versus how they're implementing it, I said, you go ahead and sue. Me and my staff will do the amicus brief and you'll win every one. Because there's nothing what they're reading. That's when we fell out. That was a problem. Mm-hmm. And I saw right then that it was a very liberal staff that was pushing it in a direction faster than what we intended. We wanted to do it fast, but you have to bring that all back. Mm-hmm. We were bringing sourcing, where you're going to find the rare earth minerals, mining back in America so we could self-sustain ourselves, but work with our allies in Russia and Australia. I mean, not Russia, but in Canada and Australia and even Mexico. We had all our allies, why can't we work with them? We just took a little longer to get up and running. They wanted to do it quickly, put more EVs out.
Talk about the president's attitude toward our allies.
It's just human nature. Only thing I can tell you.
Does it feel hostile to you?
Yeah.
Canada, Mexico, a lot of our trading partners?
Let's say we're good friends, and we are. Mm-hmm. And we've known each other for a long time. And all of a sudden, I'm talking different. I'm just not trying to be help you. What happened to this friendship? You're going to be thinking, what did I do? And then you're going to say, hey, Major, I really need you to help me with this. And you say, well, Joe, let's talk about that a little bit. You haven't been the kindest person in the world to work with. That's just human nature. We have allies since 1945. We basically have freed the world of fascism, but we couldn't do it by ourselves. We did it with our allies. Now, have they taken advantage? Maybe so. Did we allow it? Maybe too long? Probably so. But you can talk to them. Why in the world? You understand, if we had Canada, United States, and Mexico working as one North American continent, it'll be the most productive continent the world has ever known. Finances, resources, production, manufacturing, innovation, unbelievable. Why would we want to cause that problem? But again, my friends in Canada, you have to pick it up and take care of yourself too. I want you to be a good partner, okay? I've been your provider for far too long. You haven't even paid 1%. I understand the house. There's a way to sit down and work that out. Mexico, come on. You've killed more people with drugs that come out of your country. And China, put a stop to what you're doing because you're sending the precursor to the fentanyl that goes into Mexico and comes up the highway, if you will, that kills 70 to 100,000 Americans every year. We've lost more Americans to drug, one way or another, illicit or even legal drugs. They've been so powerful because of addiction, right? More in 2 decades, Major, than we did all the wars we've ever encountered since the Civil War.
Paint me the scenario where you run for president. How does it happen?
I just say I want to be in a position.
You want to run.
I want to help. I want to help.
Be honest.
I know, Major.
Be honest.
Well, I want you to run. You run. I want to help somebody that here. I think there's a lot of good people out there. I really do, and both sides.
Yeah, but this book reads like a manifesto.
I know it reads. But the thing of it is, I'll never quit caring about my country. I'll never quit caring.
But you write in the book about thinking about it under the no labels umbrella.
I did. I thought about it very seriously. And all my friends are good.
What held you back?
Couldn't get on 50 ballot.
Oh, come on. If Ross Perot can do it, Joe Manchin can do it.
If I had Ross Perot's money, I'd be running. I'd have been running.
Most of that was volunteer efforts.
Well, no.
They financed some of it, but a lot of people just went out and did a lot of shoe leather stuff too.
They only got
in 1992 when there was no internet, it was hard.
Very well. And they got on, but on fast forward to last year, they got on when it push come to shove. I think it was 14 or 16 states. As I'm understanding what we looked at, you had to be on 34 states. And that took a tremendous organization. The other 16 states was pretty easy to get on because the candidate could do that. And we couldn't get there. And it's coming down to the wire, and I'm thinking, hey, I don't want to go. I'm not going to be a spoiler. If I can't have a chance of competing with a chance of winning, even it could be a long chance, but I can change the dialogue, I said, I'm just not going to get in there for that and say, well, you threw the tide over to this person or that person.
Right. But you know as well as I do, for an initiative like that to take hold, someone has to say, I will run. You can't wait for the ballot access to then say, I'm going to run. You've got to say, I'm going to run, to give someone who might think they want to get involved in that reason because it's you. Are you going to think earlier about
here's what I said,
getting that slog for 18 or 20 months?
What I said for the 1 hour before that President Biden anointed Kamala Harris, please, let's do a mini primary. I would have loved to have been involved.
Yeah, but that's the past. What about the future? Are you going to be involved?
Oh, I'll be helping people.
No. Are you going to run?
I'll be involved to help people. You're good.
What about the third party component of all this?
It's time.
It's time for what?
Third party.
Okay. What's it called?
Well, I've always said the American Party. I know that they say, well, Elon's had the American Party. You know what?
Yeah.
God bless. We're all in the same. We need a party, but where the grand old party thinks it's not there now, and the centrist Republicans and the responsible, compassionate Democrats feel like they've been hijacked, and you feel homeless, like 50% of us who are now registered as no party affiliation, and we can't participate in primaries. The primaries are closed. The whole system is rigged from the standpoint you have the last election, maybe 20 million people voted for the primaries, Democrat and Republican.
Picking the two nominees.
But 160 million people had to vote for what they gave them. I think there's a way to change that. But we got to work hard.
And what does that fix?
Two things will happen.
Third
party.
Because there have been third-party governors, and you've seen what's happened. They get elected, and they're kind of a shattering moment of, and the two parties in that state look at each other, don't know what to do for a while, and then in all the states where this has happened, they figured out what to do. They move as a pincer against the independent governor, and over time, wear him out. Happened to Schwarzenegger, happened to Jesse Ventura in Minnesota.
Not Angus King.
Not Angus King. Angus King is the one.
Okay, take special person.
Okay, right? All right.
He was a special person, a dear friend of mine. He was able to bring them both together. He could see both sides, and he still does. And that's what's beauty. And there's people like the Angus Kings, the young Angus Kings, the young Joe Manchins of the world. There's people there, Major, that can do it. There's people can do it. I really do. But we have to have that mentality. I know they say it can't be done because you get pressured. I think basically you grow. You grow. We've always had, growing up, the Democratic and the Republican Party basically played between the 40-yard lines. 40 here, 40 there. That's where it all came. That's when the Blue Dogs and the centrists came on. But now we're playing on the end zone.
What do you think America looks like at the end of the Trump era? Because it's going to leave a lot behind.
It's going to leave. If he doesn't change, I think it'll be very different. He has the opportunity to be so transformational in history of bringing the country together, doing things that nobody else would do because he has the gravitas to do it. He'll go right at it. And if we can get that channel in the right direction, but you can't get it channeled by reaching out, calling names and this and that, and boom, boom, boom. And he's got to let people prove that they don't want to work with him. If that's what they said, they'll never be for you. Or they said this and that. Well, his vice president said things that he didn't mean. He's a vice president. His secretary of state said things in the campaign didn't mean. They're working together. Take that same approach to what you're seeing now, Mr. President, and I guarantee you more people truly deep down that believe in this great country want you to succeed. Just work with him a little bit. Massage him. He knows how to do that. He's a different person. He's a different person one-on-one you're sitting than what you're seeing on television. Completely different.
And you write in the book that you had a more consistent line of communication open to President Trump than you did to President Biden.
I saw him more in 2 years than I saw all the other presidents put together.
President Trump?
Sure, yes. And he was very gracious, always accommodating, always helpful, always listening to you. Now,
I would be derelict in my duties if I didn't ask you about the New York City mayoral primary and Zohran Mamdani and the conversation that he is or may be the future of the Democratic Party, whereas
that's crazy.
Virginia and
Not
New
the Democrats,
Jersey,
not the Democrats.
you have
I know.
Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill both running as moderate Democrats for governor of both those states. Those elections will be happening the exact same time. Those look like divergent paths for the Democrat.
Divergent. Well, New York is the most beautiful city in the world, okay? There's everything going on. It never sleeps, and I love it. But with that being said, they're going to have to find out where they want to go. Why is it so broken? Why do they let just a very dedicated, committed part of what they call the Democratic Party? I think they call themselves the Socialist Democrats, and they're proud of it. I never could subscribe. I had to leave. I couldn't be a Democrat. I said, you ought to figure out how you lost Democrats like me. They didn't care. Okay? They were going a direction. That's where they have made their bed, and they're going to make the most of it. But for Democrats to have a connotation or an appearance that this is how the Democratic Party is, maybe that's why you lost 160,000 registered Democrats since November of 2024. Maybe you better rethink. Maybe you're coming a little bit too hard, too strong, too far left. Don't tell me how to live my life. Don't tell me what I'm supposed to think. I want to be decent. I love everybody. You can be who you want to be. You can be gay, LGBT, everything you want. Just don't force it into my home or into my neighborhood if that's not who we are. That's all. That's all we're saying.
Senator Joe Manchin, it's always a pleasure, sir. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Major.
Thank
Enjoy
you.